There was a point in fighting game history where it genuinely felt like Street Fighter was slipping. Not dead, but it was fading fast. You had other fighting games rising up, taking attention, and honestly doing things that Street Fighter just wasn't doing fast enough. And then something happened. Street Fighter 6 dropped and suddenly everything changed. Because this wasn't just another sequel, this was a full reset of identity. And I think it genuinely saved the franchise. But before we get into that, if you guys don't know me by now, I'm Mr. Frosty Flames, but you can call me Mike. We do anything gaming analysis, reviews, playthroughs, etc, etc, and we do it in a chill way with no over editing BS. So if you like that style of content, be sure to hit that sub button and join the Mr. Frosty Flames Legion. At 1800 subs, I will be playing Sub-Zero Mythologies, the Mortal Kombat game that just sucked booty cheeks. Anyways, let's get back to the video. Now before we talk about how Street Fighter 6 sort of saved the franchise, we have to talk about Street Fighter 5. This is an era that people don't really bring up as much anymore, and I made plenty of videos on Street Fighter 5, so I'm just gonna gloss over it. Now don't get me wrong, it had its moments, it had its competitive scene, it had updates later on, and it eventually became a solid game, but at launch it was rough. You had bare bones content, weak single player experience, and it had missing features that people expected from day one. And while Street Fighter was trying to figure itself out, other fighting games were moving ahead. For instance, Mortal Kombat 11, you could say whatever you want about that game, but it was booming with cinematic story modes, and be honest, it had huge mainstream appeal. Tekken 7 at the time was dominating arcades and esports consistently. Even anime fighters like Guilty Gear were building stronger identity and style. But Street Fighter, it sort of lost its momentum. It wasn't forgotten completely, but it was no longer the automatic king. And that's saying something, because Street Fighter is the king of fighting games. Like, if you think of the OG fighting games, you think of Street Fighter. That's one of the best, and for it to fade this low is telling. Now, this is what Street Fighter 6 had to fix, because when Street Fighter 6 was announced, it didn't just have to be good. It had to fix trust. It had to bring back casual players who just dropped off, even the pros who just stayed and were frustrated, and new players that never cared in the first place, because you had to fix all three of those things to get a successful game. And somehow, it actually did all three of those. Because Street Fighter 6 didn't just improve things, it redesigned what a modern fighting game should feel like. And one of the biggest reasons why Street Fighter 6 works so well on paper is the drive system. It's not just a new mechanic for the sake of having new mechanics, it changes how you think mid-fight. You're constantly making decisions like, do I burn meter for offense? Do I save for defense? Do I risk pressure or reset neutral? And that's the key thing, because Street Fighter 6 isn't just about execution if you play that game. It's about decision making. It gives you freedom without overwhelming you, and that's something that a lot of fighting games struggle with, but Street Fighter 6 does it really well, and to be fair, it's really balanced too. And this is where Street Fighter 6 does something special too, because it has a competitive and casual balance. Most fighting games sort of lean one way, like Tekken sort of leans into the competitive scene, and Mortal Kombat right now seems to be leaning into the casual scene. Either too hardcore for casual players or too simplified for competitive players. But Street Fighter 6 somehow sits in the middle, and I believe it sits in the middle sort of perfectly. For casual players, you have all the single player content, you have the World Tour mode, and I said it many times, but I put in so many hours into that World Tour mode. It was really fun, you know, exploring and finding the different masters and training with them and leveling up your character. It was cool. You also have modern controls, and I know that's something a lot of fighting games do nowadays, but modern controls in Street Fighter was special because they help onboarding, and Street Fighter is one of the most intimidating games to get into competitively, and characters were very expressive and easy to love. Like, the game had soul. And for competitive players, you still had those deep mechanics, you know, the classic controls. The skill ceiling is still high, and the esports scene is thriving again. It feels like a game that actually respects both sides of the community, and that's rare, like really rare for a fighting game. And remember when I said Street Fighter 6 had a lot of soul, or you could say the vibe of it was good? This is what Street Fighter 6 did differently to make it feel different. It has soul, and that matters more than you think. The soundtrack, the UI, the character animations, the presentation, everything. It all feels like the game knows exactly what it wants to be. It's not trying to copy Mortal Kombat's cinematic tone. It's not trying trying to be Tekken's grounded drama. It's not trying to be overly anime like Guilty Gear. It's just Street Fighter. Its identity is clear. It's loud, stylish, confident, and expressive. Even the music, it hits differently. It feels modern, but still carries that arcade identity. And you could tell the developers weren't lost this time. They had a vision and they stuck to it. I remember hearing the music for the first time, hearing all the character themes, and seeing, the animations in the character selection screen, and they all felt like they had some sort of vibe to it. I mean, the songs are catchy, like the hip hop and rap. They're inspirational, and it really goes along the theme of finding strength, which is the main theme of the World Tour mode, which is the story mode of the game. And it opens up a really inviting game. Like, you could hear the inspirational music and it's really catchy and you're vibing to it, and you could actually listen to the lyrics and analyze it and use it as like a pump up theme, and especially the walk-ins. Have you guys seen the walk-ins? The yeah, and then they're all dancing, right? And then you can hear the rapper singing and stuff like that. It's really fun and it's really like engaging for you guys to play and hear. So even in esports events, like if the players actually let it play out, the crowd chants like yeah, and it really brought the hype back into Street Fighter. And because of all this, Street Fighter 6 is back. It's not just relevant, it's not just doing okay like how it did before, but it was actually a leading conversation again. When people talk about Street Fighter games now, I feel like Street Fighter 6 is always in the discussion, and a lot of people hate on it. They're saying, okay, Street Fighter 6 is boring now. It has not really a lot to do now, because it's old and they're not updating it as much. But trust me, when we're looking back at Street Fighter 6, I believe that Street Fighter 6 will be regarded as one of the best Street Fighter games. It brought in new players, returning veterans, the esports hype was back again, and even people who don't normally care about fighting games, they come back and they play Street Fighter, or they get Street Fighter because they see it and it's hype. It basically reestablished Street Fighter as the game you have to respect again. And after the Street Fighter V era, that's not something people expected to happen this fast. And you could say whatever you want to say about the DLC and live service content after launch, because a lot of fighting games, be honest, they launch strong, they get hype for a few months even if they're bad, and then slowly lose momentum when the content dries up. You could argue the same happened for Street Fighter 6, but I feel like it was actually built for the long run, because the DLC characters aren't just random additions either. They feel like events. Every new fighter adds something fresh to the meta. It shakes up online play. It gives a lot of people a reason to come back and learn again. And I love the guest characters that were added in Street Fighter 6. Usually I'm against the guest characters, or at least too much of them, but Terry and Mai really fit in. You wouldn't even think they're guest characters. That's how well they fit in. And on top of that, the updates actually matter. You get a lot of balance changes, system tweaks, quality of life improvements, basically the live service yada 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 that keeps it going and propelling it forward. And it's not overly failing like how Mortal Kombat just abandoned their game and just didn't listen to fans. And the same thing with Tekken, they did the same thing. So it's like Street Fighter is really on top again, because Mortal Kombat and Tekken are really going down a path that a lot of people really don't like. So yeah, this is Street Fighter 6. It didn't just improve the series, it sort of rebuilt it in a way. It took a franchise that was starting to lose its identity, and it reminded people why Street Fighter was the standard in the first place. And honestly, that makes it so impressive, because saving a franchise isn't just about making a good game, it's about making people care again. And Street Fighter 6 did exactly that. But that's just my take on it. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you guys play Street Fighter 6? If so, you should get it. Comment down below. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, and join the Frosty Flames Legion. Share, comment, and do all that stuff. Thank you for watching. Mr. Frosty Flames out. Ciao.